Hey there, friend. Welcome to Create Conversations. This podcast is designed to connect you with entrepreneurs and creatives from across the country and sometimes around the world. When I was first starting my business, I really didn't have that sense of community to connect with, to bounce ideas off of, to really know that I'm going the right direction or was doing something right. That's why I created this podcast, to give you that community in hopes that it can inspire you and drive you forward through your entrepreneurial journey. So without further ado, let's create some conversations.
Hey there, friends. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm here with my friend Samia, and we are going to be talking about why, having a different style, why it's okay, and something in the photography industry as well as in probably other industries is there's a particular style that's very popular, and sometimes we may feel pressured to go into that particular style, and it may not be ours or what we connect with. So thank you so much for joining. Would you start by telling us a little bit about yourself and your business?
Yeah, so thanks so much for having me. My name's Samia. I started my business when I was 15. I'm now 22. I kind of fell into weddings, not through like the typical path. So when I was 15, I got my first job photographing a baseball game for $40. And it was on a Canon Rebel T5i on automatic. So photographers, you know what that means. And yeah, it was kind of like on that day I felt like the queen of the world. So I kept doing baseball games. Long story short, I met families invited me to birthday parties, someone asked me to do a wedding. My first wedding ever, I'm very honest, so this podcast can be very honest, I actually hated everything about it. It was so stressful. During family photos, I remember telling myself, I'm not cut out for this. I will never ever be a wedding photographer, forget this. So 6 months went by, and then a friend of mine ended up not being able to photograph a wedding, so he asked me to fill in. So I was like, okay, I'll do it as a favor, fine. And then from that day forward, I saw a different side of weddings. I think that once you are given the control to be the lead photographer and not the assistant like I was on the first wedding, I found that there's a lot more creative freedom that you have, and also you're impacting people's lives in such an important way. And I just fell in love with weddings from that day forward. So 7 years later, here we are, and I photograph weddings all over Virginia, DC, Maryland area, and anywhere anyone will take me.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, that's super interesting that you started at a baseball game. That's
Yeah.
I feel like everyone kind of starts in random areas.
Yeah, and I haven't photographed baseball since I was 15, so it's just kind of here's how it happens. How did you start?
I started more so when I was in college, because they're like, oh, you can't be one trick pony. You need to have more
Mm-hmm.
diversity in your degree besides graphic design. So
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, I'll do photography. That sounds like fun.
Mm-hmm.
And once I got a camera, everyone was like, oh my gosh, take pictures of me. So I took everyone, and then that's how it spread to my family. And then I was like, I could earn money from this maybe. And so that's kind of how it graduated gradually. But I did everything under the sun, and now I'm like, okay, let's scale it back a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like everyone starts out with everything under the sun, and then you kind of morph into
What you want. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
On that note, what made you land on your specific style of photography and editing?
Okay, so that's a good question. So I definitely first want to say that I feel like style is something that evolves. So when I was younger, it's nothing like how my style is now. And I definitely felt a lot of pressure when I was younger, on myself to know my style and establish it right away. I was like, I need to be established, I need to be consistent all the time. And the reality is that when you're building a photography business, it takes time for you to first of all learn what you're doing, learn how to make things consistent. And I feel like I wish I knew that that was just a part of the process, and so that didn't always feel like I was falling short trying to be consistent. But for my style specifically, I grew up kind of really obsessed with vintage. And I would always look at my grandma's wedding photos. I liked for my grandma's clothes. I was just kind of obsessed with the older eras and the beginning of photography. But that being said, like I started out really vintage, and then I feel like when you're starting your business, you kind of just photograph whatever you can, you do what you can. I kind of lost touch and like went through this period of exploration and then came back. These days now I find my work a lot more aligned with what I started out as a hobby with in the beginning. And I think that's like a natural thing. Like you start with your passion and then you explore, and then you find what it is your like style is. So now I'm kind of back saddled into like the vintage look, the film look, like a more moody, just something like a little bit different, something that resonates with me a lot more.
Yeah, that's so awesome. I feel like I find a lot more people that gravitate towards like vintage and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Especially nowadays, like people gravitate towards that. But there's also like for weddings in particular, it's very like bright and airy and
Yeah.
so. But even so, like your photography is beautiful, and I think that it still can convey that just as a different style.
Yeah, definitely the going style is bright and airy. Like it's definitely not like I'm not doing what like most people are doing for sure. Which is okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you find that there like I personally said that I think there are people seeking that style. Do you find that people are as well, or is that just me like throwing things out into the wind?
No, that's definitely the popular style. I definitely find a lot of people running that style. For me, I think I put out a lot of content that is my style, so people are aware that the bright and airy look isn't what I do. But I have had people in the past like who have inquired be like, "Oh, can you edit this brighter?" And like, I want bright and airy. Do you change your editing style like for each client? And my answer is always no. Like, I have to edit the way I put out. What you see is what you get, just because I want you to be happy at the in the end. And so, if this isn't your style, then we need to, not work together. I can refer you to my bright and airy friends. And I think that's just like really important. And also, um, at the same time, like I have people who this year have chosen their wedding date around like when I'm free for 2022, and like I was able to book my calendar for 2019 completely, and 2022 is booking. So I mean 2020. Why am I saying 22? 2020. But I don't say that to like boast or anything. I just say that because like when you're starting out, you will start to get pushback if people ask you to edit things different ways. But if you stick to what your vision is, you will find people that know that that's unique and that will book you for that, and they know they can't get that anywhere else. So once you get over that little hump of like trying to be everything to everyone, you will find your people, and like people are like, we need to work with you because I don't know anyone else who does this vintage look. So
Right.
yeah.
Right. So do you think like when you were just starting out, did you do a lot of like, oh, I'll just edit it for this? Like I'll edit the way you wanted to,
Mm-hmm.
I'll edit this way, that way, just in more. Do you feel like that's pretty typical of
Yeah,
like
definitely. When you're starting out, I feel like you don't have as big of guns or big of a say, and you're scared. And like I was terrified, so I just edited whatever anyone told me. But then you learn by doing the wrong thing, and that was the wrong thing. And now I know not to do that. So yeah.
something I've like when I was still shooting weddings, like I felt this like I felt almost guilty like saying no, I won't
Mm-hmm.
like do
Mm-hmm.
that. Have you ever felt that when you have to say no, like this is the way I edit, this is the way I do things?
Um, In the beginning, yes, but once you see the result of that happening, so like me trying to edit in a way that they want is not how I edit, so I'm not going to do a good job.
Yeah.
And so you learn that, okay, you need to be honest because they're not going to be happy in the end if you try to be something that you're not. And then that's bad for everyone because it's not just a business. I genuinely want you to like your wedding photos. If
Right.
you feel like I can't do that for you, then I'm going to be devastated in the end, and so are you. And so it just saves everyone the trouble. I feel guilty now, like trying to do something I can't. And
Okay.
then I'll just say like, okay, no, this is not how I edit, or you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Do you think that people like when they're first starting out, they should kind of allow those like to kind of do what the client wants versus like what they feel?
Mhm.
Or should they kind of feel that they should be more go with their guns, go with their gut?
I feel like it depends what kind of stage you as the photographer are in, because that exploration stage for you to like find your style is really important. And I think to find your style, you need to try things. So
Mhm.
if you feel like you don't know what your style is, like if you say, okay, in 15 years, I want to be known for blank, and you can't answer that question, then you might be in a little bit of like an exploration period. And
Mhm.
if you're in that, then I think it's okay to, try things, take people's advice on editing, just because it'll get you to like think outside the box in ways. And the more outside the box you go, the more you'll figure out what it is you like.
Right.
But then on the other side, if you feel like, okay, in 15 years, I want to be known for bright and airy, like that, I know that's my style, then you should go ahead and, not tweak things per customer or client.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think
Mhm.
there's a lot there's a lot that to be said about that exploration period, and
Mhm.
I definitely there but you don't want to do it so much that you get burned out for doing like everything and
Right.
anything.
Yeah.
I definitely have experienced that I would drive I like drove like 3 or like an hour and a half just to go shoot for um one of my friends had or has a dance studio, and like I love photographing dancers, but she wanted me to photograph like during their dress rehearsal, which like
Uh-huh.
I know I was a dancer, I know like there are photographers that come in and photograph, but I found like after that I'm like I'm not going to do that again. Like that was ridiculous. Like I did not feel in my element. Like I was
Yeah.
lights. I had no idea what I was doing. So I think there comes a time for everyone that it's just you're like, okay, now I know where I want to go. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
I
But
can't
people miss the point that you did have to drive there to figure that out.
right.
And so you did have to try it to
Yeah.
know that you don't want to do it.
Right. Cause I'm
But
like, cause I've worked in that front before and I'm like, oh, it'll be fine. It's fine. Like this will be
yeah,
fun. And like it was fun, but I'm just like, no,
yeah, yeah.
not
I
again.
yeah. I also think there's like this pressure to just post everything that you try,
Hmm.
which is not true, because I love photographing dancers too. You've never seen that on my social media,
Right.
because it's just like I think we sometimes get into this like mindset that, okay, I'm an artist, my business is like artistic, everything I do has to be public. And when in reality, like it would actually benefit you to just explore without thinking, okay, this is going to be on social media, this needs to fit with my brand,
Hmm.
blah, blah, like people need to create those spaces where you can just explore without it being in front of anyone.
Right. That's such a good point. Because I do feel that like you have to like post everything, and then like
Hmm.
if there's something you really want to do but it doesn't go with your brand but you want to photograph it anyway,
Yeah,
feel
yeah.
like you should still do that because I mean like you don't vlog every single wedding, or maybe you do.
Right,
But
right.
I know like for example Hope has said that like she doesn't vlog every single wedding, but she does
Hmm.
like the best of or whatever ones she wants to feature that go with her brand, but that doesn't mean that she only has that many clients.
Right, right. That makes sense. Yeah, yeah.
That's super like that just you putting in that perspective, I'm like, wow, yeah, that's definitely true. Like
Yeah,
shouldn't feel like you have to post like everything.
yeah, you don't. I photographed my entire family. My entire life is photographed,
Mhm.
but on film for fun, and it's in photo boxes in my closet. And like I have each year, each month, that
Oh
like
wow.
photographed. Yeah, for fun. Nobody would ever on my business would ever know that, because that's my like outlet, personal outlet, that I don't know how it's gonna turn out. I'm just gonna photograph. I think it's cool, and then
Yeah.
that's where I'm gonna put it in my closet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's awesome. I'm definitely trying to go in that direction and also just like photograph, like if there's something I'm passionate about, like
Mhm.
photograph it. And if I want to share it, I'll share it. I shouldn't feel like it's like I have to
Mhm.
do X, Y, and Z
Yeah.
because it's
Yeah.
brand my own business, my own style.
Hmm. And you even like I feel like fall into that trap sometimes. I've done this at a wedding where you start to think like, oh, is this go into my portfolio well, or like, oh, is this like reside well on social media? When in reality, like you're at a couple's wedding and that should be the focus. So
Hmm.
I think it's easy because our businesses are so caught up on social media that like it's easy to fall into that trap, and you just have to remind yourself that like, okay, at the end of the day, the photos are for the couple, and everything they want is what they want, and then later you can decide what fits into your portfolio, but not when you're shooting.
Right,
That-
right.
yeah.
Exactly. So do you think that, like, kind of spurring off that topic, do you think that the photography world should be more open to one type of style? I feel like it is, but like in the
Mhm.
commercial realm, I feel like it's not.
Like commercial as in outside of weddings or
More so, okay. Probably more so like weddings, like when you think of a photographer, like weddings and seniors. But if like you look at, I don't know if you've ever heard of Brendan Woolful. I love his
mm,
photography. He
oh
has
really?
more like does a lot with like neon lights, and it's
Oh
just like
cool.
it's so cool. Like that's
Uh-huh.
one of the photographers that I've like originally made me love photography, and like his style is completely different. There's other photographers that their style is so different. I
Mhm.
feel like the photography world as a whole, but I guess more like weddings and seniors. Do you think it should be more open to more styles?
Yeah, I definitely think it should be open to more styles. I also think that's what makes our community like a community because you're you shouldn't view yourself as like competing with your peers because we're all different and we all like have different views. I feel like I compare myself to my old work and my current work, but I don't compare myself to other photographers because I just know that like I appreciate their work and their drive, but I have a different vision and so it's not gonna look the same anyways.
Hmm.
And I also like this is really random, but I studied abroad in Belgium.
Oh wow.
And yeah, and when I was over there, like in Europe, I worked with a photographer on a wedding, and he was from Belgium, and I like assisted him. And his style was like so different than anything I'd ever seen, like here in Virginia. He was like rolling on the floor, he was like up on ladders, like it was like all this stuff. And the point is, like, I remember feeling like, oh my God, I'm so inspired because this is so different, and he's so in his element. And like, this is a feeling that I should feel like around all of my photography friends. Like we should all just explore and do what feels like you. And then I remember in that moment, not I would never like think, oh, we're competing against each other because that was just so like his thing.
Right.
Um, and I think everyone's thing should be like their thing.
Hmm. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, that's totally true. Because that's something I've definitely tried to, or I've come to figure out. Like, it's not competing. Even if you're in the
Mhm.
same area, you more so should look at them as a friend. Like, okay, like you see things differently than I do. You're gonna approach this differently than me.
Mhm.
And even so, like if like your friend can't do that wedding, they'll hopefully
Mhm.
call on you to be like, hey, can you do this, because I trust you and I know you're going to do a good job.
Yeah.
I feel like
Yeah.
that should be more of the focus than like
Right. Right.
against you.
Yeah, right. That makes yeah, exactly. And I also feel like it's easy to just compare work to work, like the final product to the final product on social media, when there's so much that goes into photography besides the final photos. Like it could simply be your tone of voice on the like consultation call with the couple. That was the difference. Like it's there's so much other stuff that goes into or where you guys met or what maybe you guys went to the same college, like even that couple. Like
Mhm.
it just doesn't make sense to like try and pinpoint where you fell short and where another photographer didn't because
Right,
there's it's just such a complex process.
right. That's so true. And like they even just like in the photography aspect of like approaching, like seeing, I'm gonna photograph, like you could have the same layout, but the photos are gonna look completely different just because of
Hmm.
you look at them and how you
Yeah,
like, that's how I'm going to crop it, that's how things are going to work.
yeah.
I think that's definitely a good point, that there's a lot that no one really realizes that goes
Mhm.
into photography, and you have to have a real vision of it, and two photographers could be photographing the exact same thing in the exact same place with the exact same settings and everything, and it's going to look completely different.
Yeah, yeah, totally different. And also just the way you make the couple feel. I mean, some of my couples need more practice at their engagement session. They're much more shy than others. And sometimes that's a huge impact on the wedding day, whether or not we practiced or it's
Mhm.
just so much more than, social media and
Right,
final photos.
exactly. So, what advice would you give to anyone who wants to have a different style of photography than what might be popular?
Um, okay, a couple of things. The first I would say is to like give yourself a lot of grace if you're in that exploration period. So like if you know that you want your photography style to be different, but you don't really know exactly what it is, like that is so okay and so important. And there's like so much I remember I felt so much pressure to just be established when I was younger and you don't have to. So give yourself freedom. Don't give yourself deadlines like, okay, in 2 weeks I'm gonna have my Lightroom preset ready, or in a month. Just don't do that.
Right.
Because it will happen. It will feel right, and it just is a product of time and not a time with a deadline. So that's like the first thing. The second is to just believe. If you have a style that's really different than the rest of like the community, you need to believe in yourself more, I feel like, than the rest of the community does, because you're kind of off the beaten path. So just like finding ways to like feed your self-esteem and your self-confidence and your ability in your work, because in the end, you know, it will pay off, because people will see that you're unique and, you know, you have your own style, and they want to work with you for that. But in the beginning, when you don't have that much visibility, because you might not have a big social media following or like a lot of clients, like there's just not that many people looking at your work, you have to be the one that says, I'm kind of good at this, you know, I think I got this. And one day somebody will like this picture, and that's like a really hard skill to have, but I think that's what I wish I had known.
Yeah. No, that's so true. You kind of need to be your own cheerleader in that,
Yeah, exactly.
and be like, as much as it's like fake it till you make it is like probably the
Yeah.
best case scenario, like best comparison, because you really have to in
Yeah.
in that, because you just don't, you may not feel fully confident, but you really need to show that, especially with clients, and you just need to be like, okay, I got this, it's okay,
Mhm.
even though internally you're just like running, crying, scared. But
Yeah.
and then hopefully it'll get to, well, not hopefully, it will get to a point where there are people coming to you, and like what you've experienced, that people are changing their wedding date just for your availability. Like I
Yeah.
think
That's
then, you know, you're like, okay, I'm doing something right when people
yeah.
are moving their schedules just for that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and also on that note, like I feel like everyone just looks like they have it together, and like people that are established. And like I've been networking a lot, going to like a lot of like business conferences and stuff, to people who are like 10, 20 years into this industry, and they're still scared and they're still nervous and still feel like they don't know what they're doing. And I'm like, you're you. So I just think that if we just accept that that's a feeling that's never going to go away,
Right.
always going to be a little bit like, I don't really know if this is right. But just, you know, trust in the unknown a little bit,
Hmm.
everyone would feel a lot better.
Right, because especially accepting the fact there's no guidebook for this. No one,
No, there's not.
like every, like you said, you started in photography by photographing a baseball game. I started by
Mhm.
photographing all my theater friends. Like
Yeah.
you just kind of fall into these things, and you don't know what's, no one teaches you how to do this unless you go to business school and you learn it, but
Mhm.
half of us didn't do that.
Right, right, exactly. Yeah. And even if you go to business school, like, no, it's so different than actually running the business. Like,
Mhm.
it's like my degree is a business degree, and it does nothing.
Well, you have a leg up than me. Like I learned marketing, so I know
See, yeah,
that.
that's good. Yeah.
But even still, like there are some days, because I have a full-time job, but there are some days that I see, like I'm like, oh, my full-time job, this makes sense, I know it, but that's because there are so many other people in all these other roles that make things
Mhm.
possible. So then when it's just you, you're like, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So what's the best thing to you about being an entrepreneur?
Oh, I love this question. I think the best thing is the freedom. If I had to like put it in one word, it's the freedom, because I think I'm a person who has a lot of curiosity about life in general, about other places, about books, people's ideas, you know, dance, music, like just I have a lot of curiosity, and time is such a precious thing that my job doesn't tie me down to being somewhere 9 to 5 every day. I can be anywhere I need to be, um, and I can explore any area of life that I want to explore, pretty much, while being able to like work from anywhere. So I love that my job. I love my job for my job, because of photography and the couples that I meet, but also because of the life that it gives me to be able to like explore.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's so awesome. I feel like that's definitely something that's very common, is the freedom of time. And there's a lot of people, there's, because I went to creative at heart, and if you
Oh
ever,
yeah.
If you ever choose to go. Like,
I really want to go. Yeah.
it's so amazing. And one talk we had was, I forgot who spoke, but she was breaking down like when you go into being an entrepreneur, there are like five things that you think, 4 or 5 things that you like focus on, and 2 of them were time and money. So it was something that really resonated with me because I definitely say like I just want more time to do these things. I want more time, more freedom. Whereas other people, like, they want financial freedom. And those are like 2 popular things. So I feel like it's one or the other. And I find it very interesting the people who say time, because I feel like we're on the same wavelength, that we're like, we know we want more time to do other things, and we just want that freedom. We don't like being locked in a time zone.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But thank you so much for hopping on and joining. Like, this is awesome. And I've always wanted to talk to you about your style just because I love it so much.
Oh, that's so sweet. Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Oh my God, this is the first podcast. So
yeah, no problem. So where can everyone find you? I know you have a YouTube channel, so you can plug for your YouTube.
So I'm on Instagram as Samia's SAMIAS_photography. Or YouTube, same thing, Samia's Photography. My website is samiasphotography.com. So yeah, that's right.
Thank you so much. And thank you guys so much for listening to today's podcast. And until next time, bye guys.
Thank you so much for watching and listening to today's podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure you leave a review because that really helps us grow the show. If you want to continue to support this podcast, head over to our Patreon from the link in the description or the link in the show notes, where you can sign up for one of 3 tiers where you get exclusive merch, a direct line to me to tell me who I should have on the show, as well as getting to hear and see the podcast days before it releases to the public. I'm so excited for all the other exciting things that I'm going to be sharing with my patrons, and I can't wait to see you there. This podcast is also sponsored by HoneyBook. HoneyBook is an amazing client management service that I've been using for years, and they are absolutely incredible. They are so incredible that they're giving you guys an exclusive deal for 50% off your first year with them. That is a $200 savings, which is so crazy and so amazing. So you guys should head over to the link in the description or the link in the show notes to grab that amazing deal. This podcast is edited and produced by Earbrads. You can find them at Earbrads on Instagram or at earbrads.com. You can find me at Vanessa Jordan Photo on Instagram, Facebook, and Pinterest. And you can also find me on my YouTube channel, Vanessa Jordan Photography, if you are listening to the podcast version and not watching the YouTube version of this podcast. And you can also find me at VanessaJordanPhotograph.com. And until next time, I cannot wait to create some amazing conversations with you.